Welcome to The Disruption Is Now. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore how AI is impacting our jobs, careers, lives, and the human experience. Each episode, host Greg Matusky will converse with visionaries and innovators at the forefront of AI, diving into its challenges, opportunities, and impact. So buckle up as we venture into the heart of disruption, and together, let's unfold the future.
Well, welcome to another episode of Disruption Is Now, the podcast where we talk about AI and how disruptive it's being to human communications. I'm your host. I'm Greg Matusky. I'm also the CEO of Gregory FCA, the National Public Relations Agency. And I have a very interesting guest on, someone who I've followed their career for the last 20 years, just about. And his business really is at the heart of much of the news that we see in the world. Greg Gallant is the CEO and co-founder of Muck Rack. Now, in the real world, people probably don't know Muck Rack, although it's a very cool name. But it is the tech platform that many PR agencies, including myself, run on. It allows you to research the media, but also it allows you to measure the media in a way that proves your worth to your clients. It's been a very important part of our growth here at Gregory FCA, and Greg is the master of that. Greg, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg, and thanks for being. Well, first of all, I always love Gregory FCA's name, being a fellow Greg, and appreciate your agency being one of our very first users. So,
well, we were one of your first users, and we're very proud of that fact. It's been instrumental to the growth of our agency, Greg. And I don't know if PR has a Hall of Fame, but I would imagine if it does, you will be right up there with the greats for what you've enabled us to do. Again, shaping stories throughout the world with regard to how PR firms represent their clients and get the news out there. You know, I've been really fascinated in the last few years as to what Muck Rack's AI strategy is. And I was waiting for the next wave, right? I was an early adopter, as you know, and I deeply believe that AI can help us do better for our clients. And recently I've been sitting around thinking, we've harvested much of the low-hanging fruit, right, with AI. We know how to use it to create content, how to adjust workflows. What's next? And then I heard about Generative Pulse, your new product offering, which is brilliant and I think very important to our existence, the vibrancy of the industry. Let's go into that. What exactly are you using AI for as much as AI search, and why would this be so transformational?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think we're seeing the biggest and the fastest shift in how people get their information, maybe ever, definitely in my lifetime, where, for the past 15, 20 years, the big trend has been people search the web, Google search, Google went up every year, and that was pretty much it. Now, when people want to know something, they're generally going, or increasingly, and in huge numbers, going to LLMs, or AI-based search, be it ChatGPT, Claude, or even with Google, a lot of the Google searches are becoming powered by Google's Gemini platform. And it shifts from just showing them links to stuff to actually giving them the answer. And I think it's actually bigger than search because, I imagine you find this too. I'm finding there are all these cases throughout the day where things happen to me, and I would never thought to have Googled it. Like the other day, I call it my broken light bulb moment. Light bulb burned out. I screwed it out. It didn't say what kind of light bulb it was. It was an odd shape. So I took a picture. I uploaded it to ChatGPT. I said, what kind of light bulb is this and what should I replace it with? And it gave me a link, and I bought a new light bulb. And I couldn't have Googled what's this light bulb with a weird shape and this and that. I would have had to have
that's a great example. That's a great example because what Google would have left you is dissatisfied. The first three hits would be where to buy Google. Your light bulb. The next one would be a promotion for Home Depot. Even now with their AI overview, it pushes you further down on the page. Then you got to go through Home Depot and the light bulb retailers. And then you find out perhaps that you've got a manual for a light bulb that no longer exists. And this is part of the degradation of Google, right? So with AI, as you said, it's enabling what?
Yeah, it gave me the answer instantly. It told me what kind of light bulb it was, where to buy a new one. And that's just one of many examples where I might have even, like you said, the Google, it's like I would have known the Google experience would be so bad, I would have probably given up, gone to a hardware shop, or had to ask an electrician. And there are just millions of examples like this that, as we go throughout our day, we're asking AI stuff. Not only are we replacing Google search with it, but we're asking it for new things. So it's this, huge shift. But think if you ran a light bulb company, maybe it recommended your competitor, maybe it recommended you. That had this huge effect on consumer behavior. And you running the light bulb company would have never known about this. It's not like a press clipping you can just cut out and know, like, oh, my, this home improvement magazine recommended me or my competitor. So I think the challenge for every business, every communicator, every marketer is going to be thinking through, like, what's AI saying about my brand or me? Is it recommending me? Am I coming up in the conversation? Is it saying good or bad things? How am I compared to my competitor? And up until now, it's been a total black box. And you could try asking your own ChatGPT, but it's already trained on you. So it's going to give you a biased answer because it knows you work for the light bulb company in this example. Or, it's like a sycophant that wants to make you happy. So what we built is a product where you could set up all your queries, what's the best light bulb to buy? What's the most reliable light bulb company? Hundreds of other questions like that. And then Generative Pulse will ask all the LLMs, so across ChatGPT, Claude, and more, and then aggregate that and show you it over time. So you could see, how am I being recommended compared to my competitors? What's being said about me compared to my competitors? How's that shifting over time? But more importantly, and love to discuss this more, but giving you the starting point for how to influence what the LLM will say. And I think that's the new job of communicators now. It's not just influencing people, but it's influencing LLMs that will in turn influence people or make buying decisions on people's behalf.
Well, I think that's interesting. Now tell me, I'm a PR guy, Greg. I don't do SEO. That's not my thing. Why is this such good news for PR firms, and as opposed to straight SEO? What are you finding that really is a chest-high fastball for the kind of work I do?
That's a great point. So the question is, like, is this just some kind of technical thing that, it's just about tweaking some meta tags and has nothing to do with PR? But what we found, and we did this big study called What is AI Reading, where we analyzed over 1 million links put out in response to hundreds of thousands of AI queries that we asked all the LLMs. And we found that 30% of their citations come from earned media, come from journalistic content. And in terms of earned media, it's like over 80%. And
say those stats again. Say those stats again. Slow down. Say them again, because this is the good news.
That's right. Yeah. So about 30% is from journalistic content, content created by journalists. And then in addition to that, if you add up social, third-party blogs and other sources like that also you're not including content you pay for, that adds up to about 80%. And if you add up, also your own content, or everything except for what you're paying for, like what your marketing department's paying for, it's 95%. So it's really communicators doing everything.
That's the good news here, is that it really plays into the skill set. What you just said is what I do, right? I place, I publish, and I push. I place in the media. I publish on my clients' owned properties, and I push to other third-party properties that will take the news, that will accept the news. There's a lot of discussion about authority within that realm and what the machines see as authoritative. What do your studies show you about that, and what could we learn from it?
Yeah, what we see is that traditional news outlets do have a lot of authority in them, but it varies a lot by news outlet and depends a lot on the outlet, and it depends a lot on the LLM. And there are some notable cases like the New York Times is suing ChatGPT and OpenAI, and as a result, OpenAI won't crawl the New York Times anymore, even though they initially trained on it. So you could get an amazing story on the front page of the New York Times and have no influence whatsoever on ChatGPT. We saw, they cite Axios very highly. They don't cite certain other publications highly. And then it varies a lot by query too. So we have these, really aggregate stats. You could look at the aggregate stats and see, okay, this publication is generally influential and it's all in the report, or this publication doesn't have a lot of influence yet. But then if you're working on a specific brand or customer, it really pays to use an app like Generative Pulse and go through the data, because it might be that maybe Axios is really influential at scale, as we saw in our general study. But if you're representing the light bulb company, they might not have a lot of authority on light bulbs, and it might be some light bulb, home improvement blog that ChatGPT really looks for. But then there's also a lot of variance between the LLMs. You might see like, hey, this one home improvement blog will really influence ChatGPT. And then even you could see like who the journalists are that wrote the articles that influence ChatGPT and add them to your media list, all integrated in there. But then that same publication might not be influential at all with Anthropic. And then it might be, hey, Anthropic's really indexing on our corporate blog. So, we have to do the corporate blog for Anthropic and the home improvement for ChatGPT.
So let's keep juggling the balls, right? You've got the issue of what it's drawing from. You have the issue of different LLMs drawing from different things. And then you have the inherent inconsistency of LLMs, right? I could put a prompt in my office and I'd get one result. And I go over to my associate's office, Fran Murley, he'll do the same thing, and it could be different. It could be different from today, from tomorrow. It could be different a month from now. And so in that world, where do you see this fitting in, the generative pulse, and how over time, right, you can gain a more fuller portrait for your clients or for your brand?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's where a lot of communicators need to shift their mindset, because media monitoring up until now, it was the same for everybody. You read the New York Times article, I read the New York Times article, it's going to say the same thing. And here, as you point out, we both can ask an LLM the same question, get a different answer. And the way to handle that's a few different ways. One is, I think everybody has to realize if they use their own account in an LLM, that account is trained on them, and it'll give answers trained to them. So if I log into my ChatGPT account and say, what's the best PR software? It'll say, Muck Rack, you dummy, you're the CEO of it. It's not giving me the unbiased answer. So first you have to start from a logged out position, as we do at Generative Pulse. And then you just have to get a big sample size. So Generative Pulse will query hundreds of queries and then do it every day. So you can see how does it average out over time. And yeah, it'll vary a bit every day. But you could still take this, similar to sampling in anything else. If you do enough sampling and have enough samples, you can get statistically relevant trends and see what happens over time.
So for a PR agency, what are we being asked for more than anything else right now? First, obviously, media still plays a major role in it. But beside that, sophisticated clients are looking for that data science. They're looking for that insight into the signals in the market, right? And they're looking how they can shape those to surface their brand above others. This is why I think this is so important to firms like myself. We're not Edelman. We're not Porter Novelli. They're probably your clients, but we're that next tier of PR firm. And we want to compete against those other firms, right, who may have done their own platforms or maybe using your platform. But for us, it really does bring a new tool to the toolbox. It allows us to stay one step forward. We can be more nimble. We can be more flexible. Like we're jumping all over this already, as you've seen this week where we have a couple demos set up. I think it's a real competitive advantage in the marketplace. Those firms that aren't as large as our firms may suffer some because this is not cheap. It's a difficult thing to do, which takes a lot of which takes compute, right? It takes a lot of data. Am I wrong? What do you think of that?
No, it's an interesting case. I mean, it's definitely there is a cost to using the APIs of the LLM to find this out. So, as you point out, it's not something that comes for free and it doesn't scale like just reading media normally does. But I think it's less about the size of the agency or even the size of the in-house team. I think it's more about how fast people are to jump on trends. And, going back to your comment before about not doing SEO, I always thought like you were doing SEO. I mean, every PR person was getting authoritative links. So when you got your client placed in the New York Times, that was like the best thing for SEO and had a great backlink. And I always thought that the PR firms should have gotten a lot more credit for their contribution to SEO. But I think as an industry, most it was never kind of industry-wide communicator. People didn't quite. I think people undervalued the contribution of PR in terms of getting high-quality backlinks. And I use that as an analogy because I think every PR firm is doing GEO already. Because if you get press, you get earned media, you're influencing what the LLMs would say. But the problem is if you're not tracking the impact and then you're not optimizing the impact and you're not explaining the impact, then the PR firm or the PR profession, the comms profession won't get credit for it. And then there are people who are setting up shop and they're just saying they're GEO people and they'll just take the credit because they'll measure it and take the credit, all the hard
it is interesting. I've read a lot of articles by SEO thought leaders who really are downplaying the impact of earned media in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And people send me these all the time, and I always say, consider the source. I think they're concerned. I don't think they have the capabilities to get in the New York Times or on Fox or CBS or any of the other major outlets, and I think it's a point of concern from them, and they don't want that revenue to run away. That's why I think it's an opportune time for PR to really step up and take control of this conversation, because it goes back to the heart of what we do. And the way you do that is through storytelling. You can only get into those publications by the purity and the authenticity of the story, right? And why they're authoritative is because they're vetted. There's somebody there writing the story, right? This is not a blog, although I understand on third party, there's value in that. But that still holds sway. I don't care what they say about the media. I don't care about the public's lack of trust in the media. Fully, 80% of all stories that go viral start somewhere in the media. It still plays a huge, tremendous role. And I think with Generative Pulse, I know for myself, it's much more exciting because it's not so much the technical and the tricks that go with SEO. I've gone to presentations and it always seems to be the SEO presenter shows you these remarkable tricks that they pulled off once or twice, but none of them have to do with storytelling. Right? They had to do with, they placed a list somewhere and created a website that looked more authentic or something like that, right? But I think the ultimate measure is in modulating and shaping a story is your ability to express it to an audience, the media, the most skeptical audience I have ever worked with, and find value there and make sense there. So in that respect, I do think the cockroaches will inherit the earth. I do think we will be in a good position. which I have to say, after the AI revolution and so many people talking negatively about how it's going to take away billable hours, reduce retainers, why is somebody going to pay you when a machine can write a news release? This gives real value. This allows us to differentiate ourselves. This allows us to sit at the table and explain what influence means. I think in the future we will look back, Greg, and really laugh at the day that we sat around making up fake copy to influence one thing, Google. That's not the way the world works, right? It was just an aberration. That's going to pass. I wrote an article 2 years ago that said the death of Google search. And man, did I get hammered. Like everybody told me what an idiot I was. And I don't think I was wrong. I think I was a little too soon, right? I think these tools you're bringing into the market are really transformational. And I really have to thank you for that. And thank you for the career that you've laid down. I think it's a very noble path you've been on, that you've given us these tools that allow us to show ourselves that we are more valuable as part of the marketing mix, but also tools that have allowed us to really improve performance. Muck Rack is a word that we use with reverence here at Gregory FCA. I can tell you when I go to conferences, it's equally as revered for what you've done against giants, literally. Your competitors were much more entrenched, and I congratulate you. And I want to thank you for being here. Generative Pulse, I think, is a step forward for our whole industry. And kudos to you and your team. I imagine it wasn't easy, but it's very important.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on the show, Greg, and really admire everything Gregory FCA has been doing and staying on the cutting edge. So look forward to keeping the conversation going.
Terrific, Greg. Keep them coming. And, share me in on your next innovation. I'll be fascinated to see where you go.
Sounds great. Will do.
All right. Take care.
Be well.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion today and want to continue exploring the transformative power of AI, please check out more episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.